manufacturer invests R&D in a development of a new drug, that manufacturer takes risk and is entitled, within reason, to recoup costs. But when you take a 100-plus-year-old drug like insulin and you suddenly jack up the price just because you can, I'm not saying you did, we had hearings on that, that actually puts lives in jeopardy. And so maximizing profits, nothing wrong with that, but not at the expense of people's lives, not at the expense of people's health. And I think PBMs as well as Big Pharma have an absolute obligation, and so do we up here, in protecting consumers, especially when the system doesn't work for them.
I appreciate my colleague across the aisle's remarks, but I think, with all due respect, you're missing the mark entirely. You're missing the mark entirely. Our country—
Well, not entirely.
Our country is sick.
What you're about to witness is stark differences in how Democratic and Republican congresspeople approach the issue of mega corporations squeezing every last red cent out of the American people.
Our country is sick. Why is Europe and Canada paying less? Because they don't have an enormous obesity problem, because half of them don't have diabetes. I mean, all of these are preventable diseases. They're all preventable diseases. Mr. Joyner, what percent of the drugs that you sell treat trauma injuries of some kind, or genetic abnormalities? What percent? 10, 15% of the drugs you sell?
I'm not sure.
I bet it's less than 20. We can all agree. So everything else is purely preventable.
Without citing evidence and without an answer from the witness, Timmons just runs with his own number to continue crafting the narrative that the American people are responsible for pharmaceutical and healthcare companies gouging us wherever they can.
I mean, so we have all of these problems with drug prices, but we have a demand issue. We have a demand issue. This country is sick. I have seen more people getting dialysis in the last 6 years. I go to these dialysis clinics at least once a year, and it's sad. And there's more of them, and there's more of them. And 95% of people that have diabetes that need insulin can exercise and eat better and not have these problems. So we're here to talk about who is making more money along the supply chain. Why don't we cut the supply chain off? Cut the need off. People need to be healthier. They need to take responsibility for their health. They need to exercise. They need to eat right. Our entire healthcare system delays death and treats sickness. We do nothing to facilitate health and wellness.
And this is how Republicans get away with the constant lying and moving the goalposts regarding issues they cannot defend. Yes, Timmons is correct in saying that we do need to focus more on preventative medicine, along with improving fitness and nutrition quality. But do you notice how he just completely absolves blame from any other factor responsible for our levels of diabetes and obesity, food deserts, poverty, working multiple jobs, corporate greed, pollution, deregulation, housing prices, and countless other factors? They all contribute to the problem far more than an individual's personal choices. But for so many conservatives, it's all boiling down to the usual, the classic personal responsibility scapegoat.
We talk about Europe. I mean, their diabetes rate is drastically less. So yeah, insulin's less. There's less demand. And the cost of insulin goes up because millions and millions of Americans are increasing the demand on it. 129 million people in this country have at least one major chronic disease. At least one major chronic disease. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, obesity, hypertension are the lead. All of those are very preventable unless you have a genetic abnormality. I'll even use myself as an example. I owned a CrossFit gym. I worked out every day, and I went to the doctor. I got some blood work done, and the blood work came back. She said, "William, you have a cholesterol problem." I said, "I'm 10% body fat. I work out every day. What's up?" And she said, "Well, what do you eat?" At the time, I was eating probably 16 ounces of steak a day. She was like, "Well, there's your problem." So I reluctantly changed my diet. I ate some fish, had some shrimp, ate some chicken, go back, get my blood work done, not a problem. Could I, without any penalty, have continued eating 16 ounces of steak every day and gotten a pill, lived on that pill for the rest of my life, and received no additional cost to me as a person? Yeah, I could. That's our healthcare system. There's no accountability. And you know what's crazy? That cholesterol pill that I take after a couple years, I'm probably gonna get a blood pressure issue. So there's a pill for that. And, let's just say I stop exercising, gain weight. There's a shot for that. I mean, this is not how our country needs to be operating. It's just outrageous.
Timmons doesn't understand that the vast majority of Americans don't have the luxury of time to spend at the gym, nor the funds to consistently eat nutrient-rich food like he did. This anecdote example is, well, nothing but political theater. It does nothing to aid the substance of his faulty argument.
The way to address our healthcare system is by accountability, personal responsibility. We have to incentivize health and wellness and not delay death and treat sickness. So I realize I'm on my soapbox here, but we have a major problem in this country. We have some of the worst outcomes of any developed country, and we spend 4 times more. Average spending, almost $5 trillion? And we have one of the least healthy developed population in the world. So I get it. We're fighting over drug prices, who along the supply chain is getting what and how they're doing that. We have to go to the root cause. We have to reduce the demand for all of these drugs. Even the military is having a huge problem. We're having to constantly reduce our standards because we cannot field a professional military. I mean, this is a national security threat. We have $35 trillion in debt. We're adding $1 trillion to our debt every 100 days. And we have workforce issues because people are unable to work because they're at the dialysis clinic or they're too sick. And again, 90% of all of this is preventable with diet and exercise. So I understand that we're fighting over drug prices and who along the supply chain, but we got to go to the root cause, and we have to get serious about incentivizing health and wellness and stop fighting over who gets what dollar as we delay death and treat sickness. And with that,
would the gentleman yield for a question?
Absolutely.
But I'm very drawn by your analysis, but would you take it one step further and say that Congress and the federal government should not be investing in big sugar, in big dairy, and in unhealthy agriculture practices that end up producing diabetes and unhealthy outcomes?
I do everything in my power to eat things that are from nature, and I'll leave it at that.
All right.
Nothing happens in a vacuum. Capitalism, specifically the monopolies and oligopolies we have in this country, are the main culprits for the healthcare crisis and the related massive drug price crisis. And the lack of real investment in overall health and wellness of the American people, that's where the actual crisis begins. A properly run single-payer Medicare for all system would certainly help massively quell the price gouging and price fixing. I mean, can you imagine a country where the poor and elderly don't have to make an agonizing decision like choosing food over medicine or housing and utilities over a desperately needed visit to the doctor? Solving this crisis would also do something else. It would incentivize further innovation, research, development, and it would do what Big Pharma has worked tirelessly against. It would increase market competition.
When some people have a near-death experience, they reflect, they change their ways. Not Trump.
I was supposed to be nice. They say something happened to me when I got shot. I became nice. And when you're dealing with these people, they're very dangerous people. When you're dealing with them, you can't be too nice. You really can't be. So if you don't mind, I'm not going to be nice. Is that okay?
Not only did he not change, he went on to blame the Democrats for the shooting.
They're great. And sad, such a distressed, sick world. But, it could be caused when they call you a threat to democracy. You never know what causes it. I'm a threat to they're a threat to democracy. They're a threat to our country, period.
The guy can't help himself, just like when he does this type of stuff.
And she goes, Olympic tryouts. Mom and Dad are in the front. And I hate to do it. My wife says it's so unpresidential when you do that. Can you believe it?
Never thought I'd agree with Melania, but she's right. A presidential candidate should not be making fun of transgender athletes and acting the way he does.
We're a dumping ground. We're a stupid country that's run by stupid people. Every week we'll bring a never-ending stream of illegal alien rapists, bloodthirsty killers, and child predators to go after our sons and our daughters. That's what's going to happen. He won 20 Indianapolis 500s. This guy wins all the time. I mean, we appreciate talent. I said, let me use these guys to guide our military a little bit. When you can win so many races, that's okay, you know? You guide. Same thing with coaches. You take some of the greatest football coaches, you put them at a table. What do you like, coach? Because in its own way, it's not so much really different.
So there you have it. The guy is as outlandish as ever. It's actually a broken record. You would think, again, after the attempt on his life, he had a chance to bring the country together. He had the speech at the RNC, which was viewed by millions of people. And we can only guess that some of those people that were watching to decide who they're going to vote for. A lot of them probably already know they're going to vote for him. But some people might think, you know what, let me tune in and see if he's changed because maybe I have conservative values and I want to see if he's changed and wants to bring the country together. And if you watch that speech at the RNC or if you watch all of these types of speeches, he is as cuckoo as ever. He says as outlandish stuff as ever. And he's as repetitive as ever. We've all heard the stuff he just said, where he said, for example, if Kamala wins, there's going to be all these rapists and prisoners and people coming and attacking us. They've been telling us that immigrants are going to attack us for the past 20, 30 years. This has been an ongoing thing. But if you want, as soon as you watch this video, go ahead and do your own research and see what the per capita violent acts are of immigrants versus non-immigrants. The statistics show clearly that citizens of America that are non-immigrants have committed more crimes than immigrants. For the most part, immigrants are coming from countries looking for a better life. They're coming here seeking political asylum. They're coming here to take the low-paying jobs that a lot of Americans don't want. They're picking the fruits. They're picking the vegetables. They're cleaning and building and doing all that kind of stuff. And they're not here to rape and kill. And you can't just point at some incidents that happen and go, see, that's what they're all doing. Because if that's how we're going to go, then let's just point at all the white males that are doing all these mass shootings, including the guy who tried to shoot Trump, and just say that all white men are psychopaths and they're all serial killers and they're all shooters. Let's just say that. That's not true. That's not statistics. That's an anecdotal situation there. So going back to some of the stuff we just saw, some of it is just downright cuckoo. Like he says, we should take NASCAR drivers and football coaches and have them replace generals, because he says, football coaches make decisions. So you go, what do you think, coach? What should we do, coach? Should we get into this next war? Should we attack this person or country? What do you think? I mean, he's just that cuckoo and unhinged. And the beauty now of having Kamala Harris, who's a younger person who's able to battle him, combat him, is that it shows really that there really should be an age limit on when you can run for president. I would say that Joe Biden was too old, but Donald Trump is also too old. He says a lot of nonsensical stuff. And if anybody is in his inner circles, they really should consider maybe having him talk less or some way of bringing in some sort of younger generation that pick J.D. Vance as the future Donald Trump. If you've seen him speak, he's got zero charisma. So I don't know if he's going to be the future Trump or not. But here's the whole point here. The point is, this guy was shot at. He had a near-death experience. And again, there's just zero level of reflection in him. There's zero level of saying, you know what, we need to tone down this rhetoric. Let's come together. Let's talk about things that we disagree on in a healthy manner and come to conclusions, as opposed to demonizing each other and saying that if you vote for Kamala Harris, all these immigrants are going to come get you. Republicans like to do this. They like to scare their constituents by saying that someone's coming to get you. If you remember in 2016, it was the Muslims. He wanted to do the Muslim ban because the Muslims were coming to get you. And then eventually it became the immigrants. Remember the caravan? There was a caravan coming towards the border. Whatever happened to that caravan? But that's who was going to come get you. And then it was people of color are going to come get you. When the protests, the George Floyd protests happened, Trump in 2020 was basically implying that if you don't vote for him, that black people will show up in your white neighborhoods and come get you. So it's all racist dog whistles, and it just riles up his base. But I hope anybody who's got an iota of intelligence sees how stupid and non-real these threats are that he keeps talking about. I mean, his own life was threatened by a white guy who turned out to be Republican, who donated to Act Blue, a Democratic cause, $15, they said. And by the way, we come to find out that he'd been searching Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Merrick Garland, FBI Director Wray, all online. He was just someone who was probably looking for someone famous to go after, and he chose to go after Donald Trump. And here we are. So there's no reflection of Donald Trump saying, hey, maybe we have a gun issue in this country. The fact that this guy could go, if you've been watching any coverage, the guy went and got some ammunition that day. He was flying a drone above this area where Trump was giving the speech. The Secret Service somehow wasn't communicating properly with the local police. The people saw the guy on the roof with a gun, and they weren't able to stop him. Why didn't the Secret Service run in at that point and say, Mr. Trump, let's get you off that stage. There's somebody on a roof with a gun. Like right away, that should have happened. And there's no reflection of saying like, hey, maybe guns are too easily accessible. This guy clearly has mental health issues or had mental health issues. And there's no reflection on that. There's no conversation from the right or Donald Trump about, hey, maybe we should ban semi-automatic weapons because, again, it was another semi-automatic weapon. If it hadn't been a semi-automatic weapon, then this guy would have really had to be a marksman and shoot from that distance and hit his target. And in this case, he missed his target, but because it was a semi-automatic weapon, he kept going and hit another innocent bystander. So innocent people died, and Donald Trump's life was threatened. So this was serious stuff. So you would think somebody who got almost shot would turn around and say, yo, let's bring down the temperature. Let's talk about statistics. Let's talk about reality. Let's talk about the fact that the Republicans got with the Democrats and they came up with a border bill that was supported by Biden and that was supported by the Democrats and the Republicans. And Donald Trump told them, tank the bill. I want to be able to run on immigration. So now who's out for themselves? Now who really is a threat to democracy? Really, it is Donald Trump. He's a threat to democracy because he is a narcissist. He is a sociopath. And really, most of the stuff he does is for himself. And in this case, he really wants to win because if he doesn't, there's still the possibility that he goes to jail for all of the other stuff he did, including trying to overthrow democracy on January 6th. I was talking to some Republican friends who really don't believe that happened. It happened. We saw it with our own eyes. Don't gaslight. Don't keep making excuses for this guy. If you're a Republican, take the responsibility and say, this guy tried to overthrow democracy on January 6th. And maybe you'll say, hey, listen, the Democrats changed some of the voting rules because of the pandemic and mail-in ballots were more popular in 2020, whatever you want to say. But whatever you do, do not tell me that this guy is not out for himself. Do not tell me that this guy has changed, because the truth is he has not changed. And it's sad. It's sad. We're going to see. I got someone at the door. I got to go get it now. I'm comedian Maz Jobrani. I got a special on YouTube. It's called The Birds and the Bees. Watch it. If you like it, tell your friends. If you don't like it, keep it to yourselves. Bye.